Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Dr. Usman Alauddin, and I will be the course teacher of ME 112 Thermodynamics of section D, E, and F. Uh, as you know that Dr. Uzair has already explained that in the online teaching system we have divided the section we have divided the first year class in two sections. Section A, B, and C are merged and they are called together section A. And the course teacher of section A of course thermodynamics will be Dr. Uzair. And there is a second section is section B, which is merged by section D, E, and F, and I will be the course teacher of this section. So I will continue from the lecture where the Dr. Uzair left. I will start the lecture with a short introduction of mine. My name is Dr. Usman Alauddin, and I am serving as an assistant professor in mechanical department. I am also the director of NAD Dice Energy Innovation Center, and this is a brief introduction. My email, my mobile number, and my office details are written on the slide. Uh, these are the learning outcomes of my today's lecture. I'm not going to read all these points. You can pause that this video and you can read all the parameters which I have written on this slide. So the thing is that the learning outcomes is that at the end of this lecture you must have a clear understanding and a clear concept of all these definitions or the parameters which I have written on the slide. The first one is the pure substance. So, dear students, you must have heard about the terms like pure and impure in our daily lives. But the concept of pure is a little different in thermodynamics. So we can define pure substance as a substance which has a fixed chemical composition throughout. So let's suppose this tank is filled with nitrogen gas, and if we move around in this tank, we can observe that the the chemical composition of the substance remains same. So like if I am at the bottom, if I am at the top, if I am on the right and left hand side, I will observe that the chemical composition remains same. So we can say that nitrogen is a pure substance. uh, now the question is can is air a pure substance? Because in the previous example we have seen that nitrogen was only one element, but we know that air is a mixture of different elements, different gases. So can air be a pure substance? The answer is yes. A pure substance does not have to be a single chemical element or compound. A mixture of various chemical elements or compounds also qualifies as a pure substance as long as mixture is homogeneous. So in the case of air, you can see that air is a homogeneous mixture and it has a fixed chemical composition. Let's suppose if I am at the bottom of the tank, I will, and if I am at the top of the tank, I will see that there will be a same proportion of, like let's suppose air percentage. I will not see that at the bottom oxygen is less and at the top oxygen is more. In that case air will not be a pure substance. So for pure substance the composition should remain same. So as long as air is a homogeneous mixture and its composition is same throughout the system, then air can also be qualified as a pure substance. So the second concept is phases of a pure substance. Now, dear students, you have already learned these things many times in in metric or in second year, that matter has three phases: solid, liquid, and gas. So I am not going to spend too much time on these to explain these concepts, but you must know that. But and you should recall that the intermolecular forces, molecular arrangement, and mean free path, these are the three significant factors on which we can differentiate between solid, liquid, and gas. As you can recall that in solid, the molecules are closely packed and the intermolecular forces are much higher in intensity, but and as you go in the liquid, there are gaps between the molecules, and if you go in the gases, there are much wider gaps between the between the molecules, and the intermolecular forces are lesser. And as you can recall, that Dr. Uzair explained the concept of continuum approach in the probably in the first lecture on the basis of mean free path. So I advise you to recall, to go through a little bit about the solid, liquid, and gas from the previous knowledge. So now we come to the third concept of today's lecture, which is a very important concept. Before starting this concept, I would like to say a few words that students please note that this chapter, which is chapter number 3 of book Sangil, is a very important chapter, because if you develop a good understanding of concepts of chapter number 3, I can assure you that your life will be very easy, and the rest of the thermodynamics will become very easy for you, because the thing is that the chapter number 3 is the base of the course thermodynamics. The concept you are learning here, you will be using again and again in the coming chapters, like chapter number 4, chapter number 5, chapter number 6, 9, 10, you name it. So everywhere you will be using the concepts which you are going to learn in this lecture, because in this lecture we are going to uh, study that how can we use the property tables, and in the rest of the thermodynamics we will be mainly using the property tables. So now the topic, come back to the topic. And the second thing I would like to say that please recall, Dr. Uzair have taught you the basic concepts of thermodynamics, so I advise you to recall the extensive properties, intensive properties, specific properties, pressure, temperature, density, and the density dependence on pressure and temperature. And then yeah, okay, yeah, you should recall all these concepts, because I'm recalling, I will be using these concepts in the lecture. So now the topic is compressed liquid and subcooled liquid. So to start this concept, you know that let's suppose if we take a uh, closed container, and if we put inside the any liquid, let's suppose water, and if we boil it, and if we start heating it, so what will happen? You know that if when we start heating it, water will absorb heat, it will start heating up, its temperature will increase, its volume will increase, and then a time will come when the liquid will reach to the boiling point of the liquid. Then the liquid will be converted into vapor, and then a time will come when all the liquid will be converted into vapor, and then it will become steam. So in the whole process, we have given different names, different terminology, different nomenclature to the different states. The first state is the compressed liquid or the subcooled liquid. So what is compressed liquid? Let's suppose we have taken a piston cylinder device, and we have enclosed water at 1 atmosphere and 20 degrees Celsius. And what we do now, we start giving the heat. So what will happen, you can think about it, that at 20 degrees Celsius, water is at 20 degrees Celsius, and if you give heat to it, its temperature will increase, its volume will slightly increase, but it will remain liquid. There is no chance of boiling at 20 degrees Celsius. So 20, 21, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So this state we call it compressed liquid. The definition is the liquid that is not about to vaporize is called compressed or subcooled liquid. So if I plot the whole process on a TB diagram, temperature on the y-axis and volume on the x-axis, the state 1 is here. As you can see that temperature is 20 and it has some specific volume. So if you give the heat, it will follow this path. So temperature will increase, volume will increase. So this is the compressed liquid, which is, in compressed liquid there is no chance of boiling. And if I heat it, its pressure will remain constant. So this curve is a constant pressure line, because as you know that, please recall, in chapter number 1 you have learned that pressure inside the cylinder will depend on the outside pressure and the weight of the piston. So in this process we are not changing the weight of the piston and we are not changing the outside pressure. So inside pressure will remain constant. So only what will happen, it will absorb heat, it will expand, but it will come again in equilibrium. So pressure will remain constant. So we have learned that what is the compressed liquid. Now the second state is, please focus here on the title. The title is saturated liquid. Now what is saturated liquid? Now what will happen, at 20 degrees Celsius we started giving the heat. So if I give the heat, its temperature will become 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 95, 97, 98, 99, 99.999. Now what will happen at 99.99? You know that at 1 atmosphere water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. So when the temperature reaches to 100 degrees Celsius, and if I give slightly more heat, then some of the water vapors, some of the liquid will be converted into water vapor. That is, boiling will start, that the bubbles will be formed in the container. So this state is called saturated liquid. So saturated liquid is the state at which is about to vaporize. So if you give slight heat at the saturated liquid state, before that it will be compressed liquid, but if you give more heat, it will be converted into saturated liquid. So saturated liquid is the state which is about to vaporize. So now we have gone from compressed liquid to saturated liquid. Now if I again continue to give heat, then it will be saturated mixture. As you know that when the phase change starts, there is no the temperature becomes constant, because the heat you will give, it will be used to convert liquid into vapor. So the temperature will not increase. So as you can see on the TV plot, 1 is the compressed liquid, 2 is the saturated liquid, and after that temperature remains constant. And from 2 to 4 you will have a mixture of liquid and vapor. This is called saturated mixture. In saturated liquid vapor mixture, the liquid and vapor phases coexist in equilibrium. You can see in this diagram as well. The temperature will remain 100 degrees Celsius. It is saturated liquid at the bottom and it is saturated vapor at the top, because it is in gaseous form. Gas will be formed at the top. So this is saturated mixture. And if I continue giving heat, a point will come when all the liquid will be converted into vapor. This is the state 4. And at state 4 what will happen, all the liquid will be converted into vapor, and if I stop giving heat, then some vapor will be condensed and come back into the liquid form. So the saturated vapor is the state, the vapor that is about to condense is called saturated vapor. Okay, so if I continue giving heat, from liquid it will come into the saturated liquid, then saturated liquid to it will come into a mixture form, liquid and vapor, and then all the liquid will be converted into vapor. The threshold will be the saturated vapor, which is like all the liquid is converted into vapor. And if I again continue to give heat, then it's come the superheated vapor. Superheated vapor, after state 4, temperature again starts rising because the phase change has stopped. Now temperature will start increasing. So this is the state is superheated vapor, and if I stop giving heat, I repeat, if I stop giving heat, the vapor will not condense. So this is not at the border. The border at the border is saturated vapor. So let's suppose water pressure at 1 atmosphere and 300 degrees Celsius. So these are the states during a phase change process. So we can summarize here uh, what is the phase change process. At state 1 we started giving heat. Let's suppose 1 atmosphere and 20 degrees Celsius. This state will be compressed liquid, and it has no chance of boiling, which is not about to vaporize. State 2 at the boiling point, let's suppose at 100 degrees Celsius, if you give little bit heat, just a little heat, then some liquid will be converted into vapor, boiling will start. So this state is the saturated liquid. So then after that it will be a mixture of liquid and vapor, and the temperature will remain constant. So you should note that temperature will remain constant. Then the state 4, all the liquid will be converted into vapor. It will be called saturated vapor, and if you continue giving heat, then the temperature will again start rising, and then this is the state superheated vapor. So saturated vapor, stop giving heat, it will be come back. Some of the drops will come back into liquid form, but at superheated it will not be condensed. Okay. So now the fourth concept of my today's lecture is saturation temperature and saturation pressure. In the book Sengen, actually, at a saturation temperature means like boiling temperature, and saturation pressure means the pressure at which a liquid boils. So this is a nomenclature. As I can read, at a given pressure, the temperature at which pure substance changes phase is called the saturation temperature. So please note that if I say that the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius, it is wrong. It is a wrong statement, because boiling point depends on the pressure. If you increase the pressure, boiling point will increase, and if you decrease the pressure, boiling point will decrease. So the correct statement should be the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius at atmospheric pressure, and atmospheric pressure is 1 atmosphere or 101.325 kilopascal or 0.101 megapascal. So this thing you have learned in the lecture, in the initial lectures. So similarly, at a given temperature, the pressure at which a pure substance changes phase is called the saturation pressure. So boiling pressure will be at given temperature, and boiling temperature will be at given pressure. So for example, for water at a pressure of 101.325, the boiling point of the water T saturation is 99.97, and similarly at a temperature of 99.7, P saturation is 101.325 kilopascal. As I already told you that the temperature at which water starts boiling depends on the pressure. Therefore, if the pressure is fixed, so is the boiling point. So as you can see in this table, please look carefully. One column is temperature and the other is the pressure. At 100 degrees Celsius, the pressure is 101.4. So please remember these values. So you have to memorize few values, that at 100 degrees Celsius the P saturation is 101.4 kilopascal. If I decrease the pressure, let's suppose 12.35, then the boiling temperature will become 50. If I further decrease the pressure to 4.25, the boiling point further decrease. And if I increase the pressure, let's suppose 101.4 to 476.2, then the boiling point becomes 150, 200, 250, 300. So if you decrease the pressure, boiling point will decrease, and if you increase the pressure, boiling point will increase. So this thing is also shown in this figure. With the increase of temperature, P saturation is also increasing. They have the direct relation. So you can control the boiling of water by varying the pressure. If you want that water should not boil at 100 degrees Celsius, if you want that water boils at temperature below 100 degrees Celsius, then you should decrease the temperature. And if you want that water should boil at a temperature higher than 100 degrees Celsius, then you must increase the pressure. This is the law, this is the rule. So now you have seen there are very interesting question. Now first question is, why cooking takes less time in a pressure cooker? So you in Pakistani culture, we all see that in every house we have a pressure cooker, and we know that in pressure cooker cooking takes very less time. So what is the reason? The reason is that, let's suppose you take an open container, okay, open pot. So if you put water and if you put meat in the pot, then if you start giving the heat, what will happen? uh, at atmospheric pressure, water starts boiling at 100 degrees Celsius. Let's suppose meat uh, needs a temperature of, let's suppose, 250 degrees Celsius for a proper cooking. But the problem is that you cook everything in water. But the problem with water is that if you start giving the heat, its temperature will increase 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. But at 100 degrees Celsius, it will start boiling. And when the boiling starts, the temperature will not increase. And whatever the heat you will give, it will be used to convert liquid into vapor. So you are giving heat to cook meat, but that heat will be used to convert liquid into vapor. So it will take much longer time in an open pot, because in that case water will start boiling at 100 degrees. But in pressure cooker, it's a closed container. What will happen? It's you will put the water and the meat, and what will you do? You increase the pressure. That by increasing the pressure, what will happen? It will not boil at 100 degrees Celsius. Let's suppose it will boil at 300 or 400 degrees Celsius. It's okay, because what will happen now, you will give heat, and this heat will be used to cook the meat, because water will not boil at higher pressures. So in this way you take less time, you can do cooking in lesser time. Similarly, when you go at higher altitudes, like if you go at K2 or if you go at like northern areas, then you will observe that there cooking will take lesser times, because at higher altitudes you have learned that at higher altitudes pressure will decrease, and when pressure decreases, boiling point decreases, so cooking will become difficult. Similarly, why nose bleeding occurs at high altitudes? Think about it. So at what happens at higher altitudes, I told you that pressure decreases, so atmospheric pressure decreases, and human body has a pressure. We human body has a pressure. So what will happen? There will be a pressure difference between the pressure of our body and the pressure of atmosphere. So let's suppose P2 is the pressure of human body and P1 is the pressure of atmosphere. So P2 minus P1 will be the delta P, pressure difference, and P2 minus P1. If atmospheric pressure drops, P1 will decrease, so P2 minus P1 will increase. So delta P will increase. So the pressure difference between our body and the surrounding at higher altitudes will be higher. So in this case, due to higher pressure difference, there is a small layer in our nose that bursts, and our nose starts bleeding. Similarly, vehicles consume more fuel at higher altitudes. So if you, for example, if you run a vehicle at Karachi, and in 1 liter, let's suppose it will run like in 10 kilometers, let's suppose, and then if you run the same vehicle in 1 liter at let's suppose in northern area, then it will not run 10 kilometers. It will consume more fuel. The problem is that at higher altitudes, you know that pressure is lower, so the density of air will be reduced. So you know the relation between density and pressure. So you can recall pressure decreases, volume increases, density decreases. So density decreasing means mass per unit volume. So there will be less oxygen molecules in the atmosphere. So oxygen will be less. So you know that in vehicle combustion takes place between fuel molecules and air molecules. So if air molecules are lesser in quantity, fuel will be burned in higher magnitude. So you will start consuming more fuels. So these are some interesting explanations. Some consequences of TSAT and PSAT. One more application is that if you go in the tables, nitrogen at 1 atmosphere is in the, at 1 atmosphere nitrogen exists in the in the in the in the liquid form, and its temperature is minus 196 degrees Celsius. The 1 atmosphere nitrogen temperature is minus 196 degrees Celsius, and uh, and it at 1 atmosphere it is in the liquid form, and it will be in if you put it in the container, it will start it will start changing its phase, because you know that at 1 atmosphere nitrogen exists in the in the gaseous form. So if you have a liquid nitrogen and if you put it at 1 atmosphere, that liquid nitrogen will start boiling. And boiling, you know that for to boil something you need heat. So in this case, let's suppose if you have put it liquid nitrogen in a container, from where it will get the heat, because this chamber is insulated, so there is no chance of uh, heat coming in from the outside. So what will happen, nitrogen will absorb heat from its molecules to boil. Then because of this temperature will start decreasing. So in this case, its temperature will remain constant at minus 196 degrees Celsius. So what happens, you can do a trick. What will you will do, let's suppose enclose this nitrogen in a container and make a very small hole, so that let's suppose one molecule, two molecule, three molecule, one molecule, let's suppose at a time will be converted from liquid to gaseous form. So it means that you have limited the phase change process. It means that you have slowed down by making a small hole, you have slowed down the phase change process. Now the thing is that as long as the phase change process is happening, the temperature will remain constant. And in this chamber you can put any sample, like test chamber. If you let's suppose if you want to put a blood sample or a cell or a living organism, something like that, at a very low temperature, then you can put it in this chamber. So in this way you can make a container which has a very low temperature by controlling the phase change process. So it's a application of T saturation and P saturation, that is the phase change process. Okay, so I in the previous slide I just showed you the phase change process, the constant pressure phase change process on a TV diagram. We did it on the 0.1 megapascal. So 0.1 megapascal is 0.1 megapascal is at 1 atmosphere now. Uh, 1 bar, okay, 1 bar is equal to 0.1 megapascal, and 1 bar is also like 101.325 kilopascal. So these you have learned in this thing in the lecture 1, where you know the conversion between megapascal, bar and kilopascal. Now my question is, let's suppose if I do the same process at some higher pressure. Let's suppose we put some weight on the piston cylinder device. So by putting by increasing weight on the piston cylinder device, the inside pressure will increase. So if I do the same process at higher pressure, what will happen, it will follow the same path. That is, initially it will be compressed liquid, then it will be saturated liquid, then it will be a saturated mixture, then it will be a saturated vapor, and then it will be a superheated vapor. So it will follow the same path. And in the TV plot, the higher pressures are at top. Like if you go from bottom to top, this one is low pressure, then higher pressure, then higher pressure. So this pressure is increasing. So you must note that in the TV diagram, constant pressure lines are like this, and if you go from bottom to top, pressure will increase. And one very interesting fact you must note, that students, that the volume of the saturated vapor is decreasing as you are increasing the pressure. You can see here, this volume is here, and if you go here, the volume will decrease, volume is decreasing, volume is decreasing. So it's a dome shape is forming now. So it's a very simple logic, that because the saturated vapor means the gaseous phase, and if the gaseous phase exists at higher pressure, then at high pressure, if you increase the pressure, then the volume of the gas will decrease. So that is why the volume of the saturated vapor is significantly decreasing. This trend at higher pressures, this trend is decreasing. Now one other question is, but the volume of saturated vapor is not changing too much. The thing is that you learned in the initial lectures that liquid is incompressible. Incompressible means its density will not change, its volume will not change with the change of pressure. This thing you have learned already, yeah? So you will see this plot many times in the thermodynamics. So this is again the same TV plot. So like I told you that a dome shape is formed. The pink line is showing you the dome. So these are for the P1 and P2 are two pressures, P1 and P2, and P2 will be higher than P1, because I told you that if you go from bottom to top, pressure will increase. So these are the constant pressure heating lines, and please note that on the left hand side of this dome, the state will be compressed liquid, okay, and on the line is saturated liquid line. This line right hand side is saturated vapor line. In between you have saturated liquid vapor mixture, and on the right side of the saturated vapor you will have the superheated vapor region. Please, that the students, I tell you that please memorize this diagram. It's a very important diagram. Now you know that what is the dome shape is showing. The dome shape is showing that if you increase the pressure, let's suppose from here, if you increase the pressure, the pressure of the volume of the saturated vapor will decrease. Makes sense? Okay, and the volume of saturated liquid will slightly change. Left hand side of the dome, compressed liquid. Right hand side of the dome, superheated vapor. This left hand side line is saturated liquid line, and the right hand side saturated vapor line, and in between you have a saturated liquid vapor region. So these are called the property diagrams for phase change process. This is the TV diagram, and this is the same TV diagram, and this is a PV diagram, pressure volume diagram. So this is also a property diagram for the phase change process. Again the same dome, left hand side compressed liquid, right hand side superheated vapor line. This left hand side line saturated liquid line, saturated vapor line. In between you have saturated liquid vapor region. So and the constant temperature lines are like this. You have to memorize this. Okay. So now the next concept is critical point. So critical point is defined as the point at which the saturated liquid and saturated vapor states are identical. Students, please recall that as I have already explained, that let's suppose at 1 atmosphere, if you do the heating, constant pressure heating, then there will be a phase change process with distinct states. Like first state will be compressed liquid, and you can easily identify it that this is liquid. And then all the liquid, then the liquid will start boiling. You will start actually seeing it. You can see it that the bubbles start forming, and then you will have a mixture of water and gas, and then all the liquid will be converted into gaseous form. You will not see the liquid, it will be distinct, and then the vapor will be converted into steam. So this is like this line, that if the pressure is less than the critical pressure, if this thing is, then you will have compressed liquid, you will have distinct phase change process. But if you continue to increase pressure, what will happen, a point will come when there is no difference between, at this point, the black dot, that there will be no difference between liquid and vapor. So what does it mean? It means that you will see the liquid and suddenly it will be converted into vapor form. There will be a no uh, clear visible phase change process. From liquid to vapor, it will be suddenly converted into uh, the saturated vapor. So this pressure is called the critical point. So if you do the heating at above pressures above the critical point, then there will be a no distinct phase change process. So you can see that in this diagram as well, that this line, like that, the first temperature is increasing, volume is increasing, but then this line becomes constant. This constant, like the horizontal line, this line, horizontal line represents the phase change process. And as you can see that the phase change process taking lesser time, the line becoming smaller in length. So smaller in length means that it will be converted quickly into a vapor form from the liquid. And at this point, the saturated liquid and saturated vapor states are identical. So let's suppose at this point this is saturated liquid and this is saturated vapor, they are different, but at this point saturated liquid and saturated vapor states are identical. So as you can see that at higher pressures, liquid will absorb less heat to convert from liquid into vapor form. That is why you note that if you have boilers in industry, they always operate at higher pressures, because the advantage of running an equipment at higher pressure is that the the phase change process will take lesser time and lesser heat. So it's an advantage. So as the phase change process is carried out at higher pressure than 1 atmosphere, water boils at higher temperature. The specific volume of the saturated vapor is smaller than the corresponding values at 1 atmosphere. The horizontal line that connects the saturated liquid and saturated vapor states is much shorter. This thing I have already explained. So what are the values of critical point temperature, pressure and specific volume for water? So you can see, you can go in the table 1, which I have already shared in the WhatsApp group, and also in the Google Classroom. Property tables I have already shared. So the first table A1, you should go at table A1, and at there you will have a table where the critical point temperature, pressure and specific volume are listed for different for different uh, liquids and gases. Now the next concept is triple point. So triple point is a point, a triple point pressure and temperature, a substance exists in 3 phases in equilibrium. This is a very interesting thing. Like we have seen that in the phase change process, like we have liquid, then we have a mixture of liquid and vapor, and then we have vapor. But but they cannot exist at the same time. So you can imagine, like the water is if you find water in liquid, ice and gaseous form at the same point. So at if you let's suppose in this piston cylinder device, if you bring the triple point pressure and temperature, then water will exist in vapor, liquid and solid. And what are the values of triple point temperature and pressure for water? You should look at table 3-3 on book Sangil, page number 123. So there is a difference between critical point and triple point. Critical point is the point at which saturated liquid and vapor states become identical. Like below the critical point there will be a distinct phase change process. Saturated liquid and saturated vapor will be different, and if you make the pressure higher than the critical pressure, then there will be a no distinct phase change process. But at triple point is a point at which liquid, solid and vapor, like three phases of a substance, will exist in equilibrium at one time. Now the next concept is latent heats. Latent heats are the amount of energy absorbed or released during a phase change process. So it's a simple concept that, let's suppose if you uh, if you want to, uh, let's suppose, I give you example, like if you want to boil water, then you have to give heat. Let's suppose the amount of energy absorbed during vaporization is called latent heat of vaporization. So like if you want to boil a liquid, then you have to give heat. Okay, this is called latent heat of vaporization. And if liquid goes into vapor, this thing cannot happen because you have to give heat. If you give heat, if you heat it, then liquid will go into the vapor form. This amount of heat which is required, this is called latent heat of vaporization. And if you bring back gaseous form into liquid form, then it will be, it's called condensation. And the same amount which the heat which was absorbed, now this heat will be released. So the during the vaporization process, from liquid to vapor, you have to give heat. The heat will be input, and from vapor to liquid, condensation will take place and heat will be out, the heat will be released. Similarly, the amount of energy absorbed during melting is called latent heat of fusion. So if you want to melt a solid, then you have to give heat. This is called latent heat of fusion, and is equivalent to the amount of energy released during freezing. And if something is freeze, then it will be released. The magnitudes of latent heats depend on the temperature or pressure at which the phase change process. This thing I have already told you that, because if you increase the pressure, the phase change process was becoming shorter. Na? The horizontal line in the PV, in the TV diagram, this thing. So the phase change process depends on the pressure and temperature. If you increase the pressure, the latent heat will be lower, and if you decrease the pressure, the latent heat will be higher. The next concept is enthalpy. This thing you have already learned in the second year courses, that the combination of internal energy and the product of pressure and volume is called enthalpy. That is, U plus PV is enthalpy, and enthalpy is represented by H in the book Sengel. So this is written in the specific form. You already learned that in the book Sengel, the specific properties are written with the small letters. So H unit is kilojoule per kilogram, and if you write in the normal form, not in the specific form, then capital H is equal to U plus PV. And if you check the units of PV, kilopascal into meter cube, this is, it will come out to be kilojoule. So PV is actually a has an energy unit. So it makes sense because you can add in the internal energy. Internal energy has a unit of kilojoule. PV also has a unit of kilojoule, that then it can be added together. And this concept is frequently used in the analysis of control volumes, which we will learn in the chapter number 5. Now, property tables. So what are the property tables? For most substances, the relationships among thermodynamic properties are too complex to be expressed by simple equations. Therefore, properties are frequently calculated and presented in the form of tables. You can recall that you must have used the ideal gas equation in metric and in second year, where pressure or volume or temperature was used to be given, and then you used to calculate other values from the given properties. So but the thing is that this is a very cumbersome and it's a very time consuming and difficult process. So what people have done, they have done all the calculations at different pressures and temperatures, and they have listed down all the values, and they have formed the property tables. These property tables I have already shared with you. So the advantage of pressure property table is that let's suppose if you want to calculate volume, internal energy, enthalpy, and something like this at some temperature. So these things are already calculated. Just need to go in the property tables and you can read the corresponding value in the property tables. The commonly used property tables are A1, which you will be using very frequently. Table A1 lists the Boiler mass, gas constant, and critical point properties. Table A4 is the saturated water table, temperature table, because in table A4 values will be listed against temperature. So if you know the temperature, then you can use this table. Table A5 is similar to A4, but in this table pressure, like the values are given against pressure. If you know the pressure, you will use A5. If you know the temperature, then you will use the table A4. Table A6 is for superheated vapor. Table A7 is for compressed liquid, and table A4 to A7 are commonly called steam tables, because A4, A5, A6, and A7 are are tables for the water. Water is also called steam. So this is the saturated liquid and saturated vapor states, table A4 and A5. So please note that if you want to know the properties of saturated liquid and saturated vapor, please recall what was the saturated liquid on the dome. Like, there was a dome, and on the left hand side we have saturated liquid values, and on the right hand side we have the saturated vapor, and right and left to the saturated liquid is compressed liquid, and the right to the saturated vapor is the superheated. But only in this we are only focusing on the saturated liquid and saturated vapor. So for saturated liquid and vapor states, we have two tables, A4 and A5. As I have already told you, A4 and A5 are identical. The only difference is that in A4 values are given against temperature, and in A5 values are given against A5. These are the table A4 and A5. You can see that in A4 the first column is temperature. So like at 10 degrees Celsius, 15, 20, 30, 35, the P saturation, Vf, volume, internal energy are given, and in A5 the values are given, the same values are given on the with respect to pressure. Now you have to understand the nomenclature. In the book Sangil, the volume, or the properties of saturated liquid are represented by subscript F, and the properties of saturated vapor are represented by subscript G. So like, if you want to write the specific volume of saturated liquid, it will be Vf, and the specific volume of saturated vapor, it will be Vg. So now what about the internal energy? So if you want to write the internal energy of saturated liquid, it will be Uf, and the internal energy of saturated vapor is Ug. Similarly, Hf, Hg, Sf, Sg. So you have to memorize this nomenclature, that F properties are properties of saturated liquid, and G properties are properties of saturated vapor, and the VFG is the third nomenclature. FG means difference. VFG is Vg minus Vf. So if you go in the table A4, let's suppose if you have a numerical in which you have to find the properties at 50 degrees Celsius. So if I ask what is the volume of saturated liquid at 50 degrees Celsius, so you can see that P saturation is the phase, the pressure at which the phase change will happen. So at 50 degrees Celsius, the P saturation is 12.352, Vf is 0.001012, and Vg is 12.026. So you can read all the properties. So for saturated liquid and saturated vapor, you have two tables, A4 and A5. Okay, so here is another concept enthalpy of vaporization. Enthalpy of vaporization is represented by HFG, and it is also called latent heat of vaporization. As I already explained in the previous slides, that the amount of heat required to convert uh, liquid into vapor is called latent heat of vaporization. So HFG is defined as the amount of energy needed to vaporize a unit mass of saturated liquid at a given temperature or pressure, and it decreases as the temperature or pressure increases and becomes zero at the critical point. As you can recall that I showed you a dome. The dome has the shape of like this, and if we are increasing the pressure, the phase change process will start decreasing. So it means it will require lesser heat at higher pressure. So this is, they are saying that it decreases as the temperature or pressure increases and becomes zero at the critical point, because at the critical point the there is no phase change process. Liquid will very quickly will be converted into vapor phase. So HFG is Hg minus Hf. Hg is the energy content of saturated vapor, and Hf is the energy content of saturated liquid. So if you subtract the energy content of saturated vapor with Hg minus Hf, that is the subtract the content of energy of saturated vapor and saturated liquid, then you will get the amount of heat which it is absorbed to convert from liquid into vapor. So this is HFG. Okay, so saturated liquid vapor mixture. Now, in order to find the properties of saturated liquid vapor mixture, we have to define a new property. We have to define a new property which is called quality. So, because as I already told you that in saturated liquid vapor mixture state, there will be liquid and vapor. Okay, and the liquid and vapor will coexist in together. So you have to know the proportion of liquid and proportion of vapor. What is the proportion of liquid and what is the proportion of vapor? So with we can define this thing with the property called quality. So quality can be defined as the ratio between mass of vapor and the total mass. So like if you have a mixture of saturated liquid and vapor, you will have the mass of liquid and mass of vapor. If you add them together, it will become total mass. So the total mass will be equal to mass of liquid plus mass of vapor. And if you divide the mass of vapor with the total mass, then it will give you a quality. So for example, if you have no vapors, so if you have no vapors, then the mass of vapor will be zero and the quality will become zero. So 0 means no vapor, and there are no vapors at the saturated liquid state. And if let's suppose everything is vapor, then mass of vapor will be equal to total mass. This will be cancelled out and it will become 1. The quality will be 100%. So quality 1 means 100% means it is the everything is in the vapor form. So this this will be and everything is vapor form in the saturated vapor state. So so you can see that quality changes between 0 and 1. 0 and 1. 0 means no vapor, that is the saturated liquid state. 1 means everything is in the vapor form, and this is the saturated vapor state. So with this you can define the proportion of liquid and vapor in the saturated liquid vapor state. So this is very important notes. It has quality has significance for saturated mixtures only. It has no meaning in the compressed liquid or superheated vapor regions. Its value is between 0 and 1. Like you remember this thing that in compressed liquid and superheated region, quality cannot be defined, because in compressed liquid there is no chance of vapor because it is not about to vaporize. And in superheated vapor form, the heat is not about, the vapor is not about to condense. So there is no vapor form. Na? So in compressed liquid, In compressed liquid and superheated, because it's a very common question which is commonly asked during the MCQ, that what is the quality of compressed liquid, what is the quality of superheated vapor. So you can write that there is undefined. The quality cannot be defined for compressed liquid and superheated. So quality can change between 0 and 1. 0 means saturated liquid, 1 means saturated vapor, and if it is 0.5, 0.5 means 50% is liquid and 50% is vapor. And if quality is, let's suppose, 60%, 60% means 60% is vapor and 40% is liquid. So this is the nomenclature now. So let's suppose now if we want to know the properties of the saturated liquid vapor mixture, so what we can do, we have to define a method. So we can suppose that a two-phase system can be treated as a homogeneous mixture. A two-phase system can be treated as a homogeneous mixture for convenience. This is the saturated vapor Vg, saturated liquid Vf, and we are replacing this system with a system which has a volume V average, and this is saturated liquid vapor, and this V average we need to find. So we can find in this way. So if let's suppose the tank, if you want to find the total volume of the tank, the total volume of the tank will be Vf plus Vg, that is the volume of liquid, volume of saturated liquid plus volume of saturated vapor. If you add them together, it will be the total volume. And as you have already learned, the specific volume is capital V divided by M, and capital V will be is equal to M into V. So V is V by M, mm will be cancelled out, so it will be V. So now you can replace capital V will be MT V average, Vf Mf Vf, Vg Mg Vg. So this thing, and we can replace mf with mt minus mg, because what is mt is mf plus mg, so mf will be equal to mt minus mg, so we replace mf in terms of mt and mg. Now if we divide the whole equation with mt here will be cancelled out, mt will be 1 upon 1, and mg upon mt, and mg upon mt is x. Here mg upon mt is x, and you can simplify this relation. Vf into 1 Vf into x minus x Vf, it will become Vg minus Vf. Vg minus Vf is Vfg. So this is the formula. So this is the formula. Like you can see that if you want to know the volume of saturated liquid vapor mixture, it will be Vf plus x Vfg. So Vf and Vfg you can find from table A4 or A5. Simple is that. If temperature is given, you can use A4. If pressure is given, you can use A5. Similarly, if you want to know the internal energy of saturated liquid vapor mixture, it will be equal to Uf plus x Ufg, and enthalpy will be equal to Hf plus x Hfg. So like you have to be clear now, that for saturated liquid and saturated vapor, the tables are already given. If you want to, what we are doing that we want to know the properties of saturated liquid and saturated vapor. It's very easy. For saturated liquid and saturated vapor properties, we use A4 and A5, and these properties are represented by F and G. We can just go and we can just read it. But what about saturated liquid vapor mixture, in which we have both exist together? So we need to know some criteria in which we know the proportion of liquid and vapor. This thing we have done it with the property called quality, and once we know the quality, we derived a relation of properties of saturated liquid. Like V average is Vf plus x Vfg, and similarly U is equal to Uf plus x Ufg. So this thing will be more clear once we solve the numerical. Because these formulas we will use there, so this thing will be cleared. So we have done saturated liquid, saturated vapor, and saturated liquid vapor mixture. What are left? Superheated vapor and compressed liquid. So for superheated vapor, what you will do, you first you need to identify that whether superheated vapor state exists or does not exist. So what is the criteria in for the superheated vapor states? Temperature, the given temperature will be greater than phase change temperature T saturation. Volume, the given volume, the given internal energy and the given enthalpy, they should be higher than the saturated vapor value, that is the G values. Students, you can see in this diagram, this one is saturated vapor line, this one is the saturated vapor line. And if you have a mixture, if you have a state whose volume or whose internal energy or whose enthalpy lies here, that is T greater than T saturation, V greater than Vg, U greater than Ug, and H greater than Hg, then you are in this region, that is the superheated vapor region. Then with this comparison you know that this is the superheated region. And if you it will be interesting to note that in all the parameters this is greater than Vg, V greater than Vg, U greater than Ug, H greater than Hg, T greater than T saturation. But in pressure it is opposite. If P is less than P saturation, then it will be a superheated state. Does it make sense? Let's suppose if T is greater than T saturation, let's suppose we are talking about 1 atmosphere, and at 1 atmosphere water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and if water exists in the, let's suppose, 200 degrees Celsius, what is the state? So it means that at 100 degrees Celsius the phase change process has happened. Now after that the superheated vapor state exists. So at 200 degrees Celsius it will be a superheated vapor. But if P is less than P saturation, P is less than P saturation means your given pressure is less than the P saturation at which the phase change process. If the pressure is much lower than that pressure, it means that boiling point has been further reduced. So the chances of boiling will be higher. If the pressure is less than P saturation, it means that you have decreased, and I already told you that what happens that if you decrease the pressure, boiling point decreases, and if you increase the pressure, boiling point increases. So P is less than P saturation, it means you have decreased the pressure. It means by decreasing the pressure you have decreased the boiling point, and if the boiling point has been decreased, so the boiling chances will be higher. So this is the explanation. And again, do not get panicked, do not get confused. This thing will be cleared when we solve the numerical. Once we do it by our hands, by the calculations, these all criteria we will use there. Similarly, this is a sample chart of table A6, and for superheated vapor we use table A6, and this is a table A6. Like these are the pressure 0.01, 0.05, 0.1, P and P, because as you know that the pressure and temperature depend on each other during the phase change process. When the phase change process occurs, then the pressure and temperature will become independent. So we can list the values independently, like the pressure and temperature are listed independently. So in compressed liquid, if your temperature, if your volume, if your internal energy, internal enthalpy, if they all are less than Vf, Uf and Hf, it means you are on the left hand side of the saturated liquid state. So on the left hand side of the saturated liquid state is the compressed liquid. So with this criteria you can know that whether the state is compressed liquid or not. Again, if you look at the pressure, the trend is opposite. Here you can see that if P is greater than P saturation, then it will be a compressed liquid. So if P is greater than P saturation, it means you have increased the pressure. By increasing the pressure, its boiling point will also be increased. So boiling point increase means there will be less chances of boiling. When there is no chance of boiling, it is the compressed liquid. And this is the table A7, and because for compressed liquid we will be using table A7, and this is the complete table A7. So they are very limited values, and it is starting with the 5 megapascal. So, and if let's suppose if you want to know the properties at 4 megapascal, 3 megapascal, 1 megapascal, these values are does not exist, do not exist in this table. Then what will you do? Then you will use an approximation, that you will approximate the compressed liquid with the saturated liquid. And the saturated liquid, we have already learned that we have used table A4 and A5. So but for the approximation we will only use table A4. So in the absence of compressed liquid data, our general approximation is to treat the compressed liquid as a saturated liquid at the given temperature, and at the given temperature is like table A4. So when we are approximating compressed liquid with saturated liquid, we will be using table A4, and table A4 is this. And this is a summary of the chart, that when will it be superheated vapor, saturated vapor, saturated liquid. So here you can see this is the superheated. For superheated vapor, if volume, internal energy in enthalpy, if they are greater than Vg values, it means you are on the right hand side of the dome. So this is the superheated vapor. If it is Vg, Ug, Hg, and then it is the saturated vapor. For saturated liquid, it will be Vf, Uf, Hf, and if it is in between, if it is greater than Vf and less than G, greater than Uf and less than Ug, then it will be a saturated liquid vapor mixture. Okay, and for compressed liquid, they will be less than Vf, Uf, and Hf. So, and when the phase change is happening, then you will always take the temperature is equal to T saturation and pressure will be equal to T saturation. Okay, so thank you. So this is the lecture. So in the end, I can summarize that for compressed liquid, we will be using table A7, and for compressed liquid state to occur, T should be less than T saturation, P should be greater than P saturation, V should be less than Vf, U should be less than Uf, and H should be less than Hf. It means you are on the left hand side of the dome. Since compressed liquid table is has very limited values, then we can use the approximation, that we can use V is equal to Vf, that is the saturated liquid values at temperature, that is the table A4. For saturated liquid, and you can see that quality is undefined for compressed liquid, quality is undefined for superheated vapor. For saturated liquid, it will be Vf, Uf, and Hf. Its quality will be 0, and it is T saturation, P saturation. Saturated liquid vapor mixture, because the phase change is happening, the T sat and P sat, and the quality will be greater than 0 and less than 1. V will be greater than Vf, less than Vg, U greater than Uf, less than Ug, H is greater than Hf and less than Hg. And for saturated vapor, again phase change happening. So see, P will be T will be T saturation, P will be P saturation, and quality will be 1, Vg, Ug, Hg. And for superheated vapor, V will be greater than Vg, U will be greater than Ug, H will be greater than Hg, and T will be greater than T saturation, and P will be P saturation. Okay, so with this I end my lecture, and in the next lecture we will use all these concepts, all these formulas in the numerical. So please do not get confused. If you get only 20, 30, 40% of these things, it's okay, because once we solve the numericals, then everything will be cleared, that when will be the compressed liquid, which table which we are using, because at this moment you might be confused that these are many tables, A4, A5, A6, A7, when we will use which table. So you have to, once we solve the numerical, this thing will be clear. So I hope you learned something, and I advise you to go through all this video lecture, and everything will be cleared. And do recommend, I recommend to please consult the book as well, because if you look at the book, then everything will be clear. Okay, thank you. Allah Hafiz.